Hey, what up, guys? Welcome back to the Golf Parfection podcast. It has been a while, and basically, I only make a podcast when there's something meaningful that I want to talk about. And in this case, it is my journey into one length clubs. So, as you've seen on the channel, I have been gaming one lengths for quite a while, and I kind of just wanted to talk about how I got into it, my journey through it, and kind of where I'm at now in this whole, I guess, testing of this one length methodology. So, yeah, that's what today's topic is going to be about. That being said, some quick FAQs. Yes, I'm still playing one length clubs. No, I'm not playing the Orlimars one lengths that you've seen in a lot of videos at this point. I am actually gaming the Cobra Forge Tech one length clubs, and I'm really enjoying those. As far as if I suggest one length to you or anyone, it really depends. My suggestion is I feel like it's one length is set up for a person who has already built up a good swing with the variable length clubs and are moving to one length. I wouldn't, if you don't have any, if you're not, if you don't have like a solid swing yet, I wouldn't use one length as a opportunity to try to think you can become more consistent if you don't have an already established variable length swing. So those are just the FAQs. I wanted to get those out of the way, not to have to force you to listen to all the podcasts to get those quick questions out of the way. So that being said, let's talk about how it all began. So I tried first the Orlimars one length clubs on a whim because I was curious. Pretty much, I'm a notorious tinker of gear when it comes to golf, as you've seen all my videos with gear and changing clubs and whatnot. And yeah, like I, was kind of obsessed with trying new things. So, everyone in their mind goes through this process where they see something new and shiny and they think and they imagine themselves with this new piece of gear and they think, oh man, how can this help me? Is this going to be able to change my game and, make a difference for me? And then you start obsessing over it. And then I guess you get brave enough to kind of pull the trigger. So that's kind of what happened to me with these Orlimars one lengths. There wasn't much information out there about them. So pretty much, I just took a leap of faith. And for me, I'm fortunate enough to be in this hobby, to afford a lot of this equipment. This is my passion. So this is what I allocate some of my, income towards. I pulled the trigger on the $220 Orlimars clubs. There will be a link in the description below, the ones that I've bought, and started playing them. And so when I first tried them out, it was kind of amazing to me. I saw immediate results, but I want to preface this by saying, yes, I saw immediate results. However, there could have been, some immediate results realized because I was switching from cavity back irons to game improvement irons. So the Orlimars one length clubs, they are game improvement. They're pretty chunky, and probably everyone stands to gain from playing game improvement irons. And so that's kind of my first, foray into this. Like I took the Orlimars to the range that's near my house, and pretty much I saw like, man, I'm hitting these like very straight. So that was like the first thing I realized is that, dang, I'm hitting these super straight and pretty consistently, which is kind of what I wanted to gain from gaming one length clubs. So yeah, I started playing them for a while, taking them out to courses. I even took them to Spyglass. The greens fee for Spyglass was more expensive than the iron set itself, and I was playing really well with them. Most notably, I was just hitting it straight. So, but like I said, wasn't sure if hitting it straight was necessarily because of the one length methodology, or is because I was switching from my Wilson cavity backs at that time, which are probably, I would say, out of my playing ability, to game improvement irons. So I was going from players irons to game improvement irons. And so just take that with a grain of salt. So yeah, like I said, tried them immediately, had good success. And then I moved on to even more tinkering, which I kind of not regret, but I'm glad I tried. But like ultimately I did not see the improvements that I thought I would see. So going into this next phase of these clubs, I tried the grips, the Jumbomax grips, and honestly, like it did straighten things out even more for me. and I couldn't miss left for the life of me. I tend to play a small fade with my clubs, all of my clubs, and yeah, the only thing that I didn't like about the Jumbomax Grips is that I couldn't feel hitting a pure shot. So everything was kind of dull and muted. And I didn't really, have that great feedback of when I hit a really, really good shot. And I think that was the biggest downfall for me for the Jumbomax Grips. I love it on the driver, actually. I feel like it enabled me to swing faster with the driver. But in the irons, I prefer regular sized grips. But I will say with the grips and the one length clubs, I did end up shooting a personal best at Corica South. So my best round of all time, shot a 77 at Corica South, was with the Orlimars one lengths with the Jumbomax grips, and I haven't even sniffed that number, since then. So that might be telling you something. So yeah, so bought the Orlimars, did pretty well with them, started improving in the scores, got the grips, shot a personal best, and then the next step for me in my tinkering and trying things out was pretty much thinking, okay, what happens if I go back to variable length for a couple rounds? So you've seen it in some of the videos, pretty much threw the Wilsons back in the bag. And yeah, it was pretty rough, I must say. It was a lot harder to go from variable length back to variable length back to, or back to variable length from one length. And I just was not playing well. And so I kind of gave it up. So word of caution, at least for me personally, my experience is that if you go to one length clubs, it's going to be tough to go back to variable length. Like forget even hitting like the 6-iron, 5-iron, 4-iron, just like all the clubs. I couldn't hit them consistently, and it just wasn't a good transition. I only tried it for like 3 or 4 rounds, but it was just not. It was not a good experience. So yeah, went back to the variable length Wilsons just to try it again. Got bit there. Went back to the Orlimars. And I ended up putting regular grips back onto the club. So yeah, so now I'm in no Jumbomax, just regular grips, back with the Orlimars. And then this plaque that you see behind me, for those who are listening in, I got a hole-in-one with the one-length Orlimar clubs. Like, what the heck, like I couldn't believe it. I was just like, and I just had switched back to them, and I feel like it was signed from above just to tell me that no, you're going to be playing one lengths for the long run. So yeah, that pretty much solidified me, kept on playing the one lengths. But then, me, I'm always trying to chase, right? Keep chasing, keep tinkering. I ended up seeing on eBay a pretty good deal for the brand new 2022 Cobra Forge Tech one length irons. And the seller was Global Golf, so you're probably familiar with Global Golf. They're a huge reseller of used clubs, and pretty much like it was crazy because it was listed at $759.99. So $760 for really good condition, like the highest condition clubs you can buy from Global Golf, but it was a bid. So I feel like when they do that, they expect the bidding to go on and the prices to go up. And for me, I was just like, I was watching it in the background, I was editing videos or whatever. And, as the days went by, no watchers were watching the listing, and, no one was bidding on them. So I mentally, like in the background, knew when they were going to expire. So I brought the page up within 10 minutes left, 5 minutes left, still no one bid on them. And as the timer was going down, I was like, hey, what the heck? It's probably going to go higher, more than $760. But I'll just put my bid in and see what will happen. So a couple minutes left, I just threw the baseline bid of $760 onto that listing, and the timer starts clicking down one by one, and then it expires, and it says, congrats, you have won this auction. And my mind was blown. I had no idea if I was going to win this or not. And pretty much I couldn't believe it because these retail, I think for like $1,100 or $1,200 new. And this was like the highest condition, from Global Golf that you could buy from. So 760 as opposed to 1100 or whatever it is, that's insane to me. So I got a really good, what I thought is a really good deal. I don't know, maybe you think otherwise, but I thought I got a really good deal on this, and I couldn't believe it. So pretty much, yeah, they came into the mail, came to my house. I was really excited to open them. I recorded a few videos of it too, but I didn't post or anything. But pretty much like blew my mind. Like pretty much, I started opening up the box, and it straight up was like some of the clubs were still in the wrapper. So like not only were these like the highest conditions you can buy used, only like one of the clubs was used. I think it was like the 7-iron and the 5-iron. I think were used. I was like my mind was blown. So yeah, I pretty much started hitting them. I will admit, going from the Game Improvement Olimar one length clubs to the I guess players distance one length clubs has been more of a learning curve compared to just going from my players variable length to the Game Improvement Olimars in the beginning. But now I'm really getting them dialed in. I'm actually like spinning the ball now, and my swing has improved a little bit since starting this whole thing. But yeah, pretty much I'm getting dialed in now. Feel really good about these irons, and I hope. I mean, I haven't recorded a good round in a minute, but hopefully you'll see that in the future. I mean, I took them to Edgewood on a whim, and that was kind of a risk because I was thinking, oh, you know what? I'm just gonna risk it. Really lean into this, Forge Tech one lengths and see how well I can do at Edgewood. And I'm playing pretty decent. So, yeah, so I was playing those one length Cobras for like the second time at Edgewood. I was just like, YOLO, let's do it. So that's currently where I'm at. You'll see more videos of me playing with these. And then, yeah, that's kind of like the journey into one length. So other things to note, I do have the 3 hybrid, which is 19 degrees. And then I have 2 of the utility irons. So they're like pretty much, thicker irons. I have 2 of the same actually, and I just changed the lofts. One is like lofted for a 4-iron and one is lofted for a 5-iron, but they both say 4 on the club head. So that's just another thing. That's the setup that I have right now. So that being said, that is the journey from beginning to end. I just wanted to go over to that. However, I wanted to talk about now like some of the pros and cons that I have personally observed while playing the one length. So take this with a grain of salt. This is my personal journey. Everyone's a little bit different. And the last thing I'll touch on is just talking about gear in general. But yeah, so pros for gaming one length. The first obvious thing is like the setup is the same every single time. So I am a huge believer of trying to make golf as simple and as easy as possible for you to play. And, not having to worry about where to address the ball every single time, I think helps me worry about one less thing on the course and just, focus on my game. So if I don't have to, think, oh, did I put that ball too far forward in my stance, or was it too far back? I can just eliminate that through most of my clubs. So I have it through gap wedge all the way to the 3 hybrid. Then I'm going to, take advantage of that and, eliminate, those variables to make the game easier. So I think that's like the number one benefit of one length. And as a part of that, setting up the same every time, you kind of get, I believe, a little bit more consistency with that. So yeah, the first thing I noticed, like I said, like I'm way more consistent and I know where my misses are going. Maybe my swing had just improved to where that's maybe just because, yeah, like I've gotten better. But I think truthfully that one length has helped me become a more consistent player. So those are the 2 really obvious pros, I think, when it comes to the one length methodology. Another, I guess, pro that's maybe not super obvious, but I still think it's obvious, is that it's easier to hit the 4-iron and the 5-iron and the hybrid for me because they're shorter. And it does take a while to mentally get over the fact that the club is shorter. But, once you just realize, okay, it's the same swing, the 4-iron, the 5-iron, the hybrids, pretty easy to hit. And I think that's a definite pro. One last thing about the pros of this is that, it's kind of funny. Like if you get a lesson, right, from anyone and, the lesson is and you only pull your 7-iron. Hey, if you pull your 7-iron and you have one length clubs, you have pretty much the same swing through every single one, right? So you're going to have a lesson on that one club that applies to a huge range of your bag. And I think that is like a not so obvious benefit of one length. So yeah, if I take 7-iron, I get lessons from the golf garage from Matt. All he has me do is take 7-iron, then I'm good to go. I have the same swing for all these clubs, and I'm getting a lot of value out of that. So I think that's one of the not so obvious benefits of one length. So let's talk about some cons. Some cons, definitely the number one thing is the gapping is kind of weird. So with the Orlimars at least, and with the hybrid, slide it into there, like, it was looking pretty good from like the 4-iron, the 4 hybrid, the 5-iron, the 6-iron was like 170, 180 to 190 to 200. So that was like, 10-yard increments. So was the 7-iron and the 8-iron. But then when you get to the 8-iron, for me personally, the 8-iron to 9-iron had a 20-yard gap. So my 8-iron would go about 145, and then my 9-iron would go about 125 and a little higher. So if I had hit to any 135-yard distance, I'm not going to be able to squeeze out another 10 yards out of the club. So I have to take an 8-iron and play a feel shot. A lot of this was on display in the Eagle Ridge video, where I hit a lot of greens, but I was basically taking really easy swings with my 8-iron when there was like 135 yards out. And so, yeah, I'm going to gap my Forge Tech. I haven't gone into a sim and, a TrackMan or whatever to gap my newest irons, but that's just something that I observed with the Orlimars. So that's what I wanted to kind of achieve with buying this latest set, because, Cobra is on the forefront, with Bryson or whatever, on developing one length clubs. So I'm hoping the gapping is a little bit better. I think it's a little bit better, but I'm still seeing that weird 15 plus yard gap between my 9-iron and my pitching wedge. So I'll have to check it out in a sim again, or my 8-iron and my 9-iron. I'll have to check it out in the simulator, see if it's the same with me, and maybe it's just my swing. But yeah, the gapping is definitely odd with one length clubs. So that being said, another con is like sometimes, your low irons, such as like your 5-iron, your 4-iron, aren't going to go, if you don't have the club head speed, it's definitely not going to go as high, because part of having longer clubs is to generate that speed and to hit things higher. So with one length, if you have a shorter club and you don't have the speed or or the swing to hit them higher, you're going to have pretty low 4-irons and 5-irons, and they don't even make a 3-iron. So that's something to take note of. And then the gap wedge that I have, it sometimes goes really, really high because it's a little longer. So there is that con there as well. And then another con that's pretty obvious, like if you go to one length, there's only a limited amount of manufacturers that make one length clubs firstly, so your options are limited. But then it's extremely hard to go back to variable length. I tried it myself, and maybe if I would have stuck it out for like maybe a couple more rounds, I would have done it, but it was just not worth it to me. But yeah, I do kind of feel pigeonholed into this one length methodology now, and it's here to stay. But in the future, like, just say, what if Cobra stops making one length clubs? Who knows what's going to happen with Bryson and Cobra and going forward, but yeah, things could change like that. And then maybe they'll stop developing them and then they'll become obsolete, so that's just something to consider if you're considering one length. One last thing I want to talk about is some misconceptions, I guess, I've read about online about one length, and mostly it's that the number one thing that I've read about one length and the I guess people who oppose trying it is that you're not going to have the ability to shape your irons. And maybe there's some validity to that. I haven't personally had too much issue. Basically, if you can shape a 7-iron, then you're going to be able to shape these clubs because they're all the same length. I personally don't have the ability to shape my pitching wedge or my gap wedge or my 56 or my 60. So it doesn't really apply to me, but I think people are just, trying to pick at the methodology and find whatever they can to just be a naysayer. So, and everyone says that, having long wedges and short irons is weird and not that good. I got used to it pretty quickly. All the reviewers on YouTube, like Rick Shields or Peter Finch, say, oh yeah, this is so strange, like blah, 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 blah. But you get over that in like pretty much like a day. Like all you like I think it's harder to hit a shorter 4-iron and 5-iron in hybrid than it is to hit a longer pitching wedge, sand wedge, and a gap wedge. For me, I still sometimes struggle to hit the hybrid correctly because it's just so short and I want to hit up on it kind of like a hybrid, but you really need the same swing and hit kind of down on the hybrid and down on down on the hybrid to where it can get up in the air. Whereas like before, I kind of just hit it as flush as possible or even a little bit up. And sometimes you'll see me top the hybrid. So you'll see that kind of a lot in the Poppy Ridge video on some of the par fives, or when I'm like 200 yards out, I just need to advance it. I will top the ball with the hybrid. And that's just me not focusing and then not saying, hey, Matt, this is the same swing as the 7-iron. So that being said, I like I said, doing shots with wedges that are long, not a problem for me. I got over that pretty quickly. It's the long irons that are being short that was a little bit harder to get used to. So yeah, so that's kind of all I wanted to touch on in terms of where I am in my one length journey. Hope you find this useful. And the last thing I kind of want to touch on is gear and golf gear in general. So I just think right now, like golf gear is like, it's crazy. There's so many options and it's so hard to know what is good for your game. Because if you look at, and then people say you should get fitted and everything. But if you look at my journey, like I only got like semi-fitted for the Wilson CBs at a Golf Mart. And we were on a TrackMan or a GC Quad, and he got things dialed in for me, and then we custom ordered things. But that being said, like I don't even use those anymore. And I think I truly believe I found something better just buying off the shelf, and it's worked out for me. Same with my driver, same with these one lengths. And yeah, I feel like yes, fitting can help you, but it's not the end all. It's not the end game, and to say that nothing else could be better. That's kind of the only thing I wanted to touch about on gear. In terms of what's in my bag, I still have the G425 Max with the stiff outer lobe rogue shaft. I have the Super Hybrid and the 17 degree with the Mitsubishi Orange Tensai shaft. Then I have the Rad Speed Cobra Hybrid, one length. Then I have 2 of the Forge Tech utility irons, and they're both the 4, but one is tweaked down to I believe like 21 degrees, and the other was tweaked up to like 23 degrees, something like that. And then I play the 6-iron to gap wedge in my new Cobra Forge Tech one length 2022 irons, and then I have 2 wedges. They're Mac Daddy CBs, the game improvement wedges, the 56 and the 60 degree. And then I have the Cobra arm lock putter, but that might be changing. So if you stick around and watch more videos, I might be making a change there. But that being said, that's going to close it out for this podcast. If you have any suggestions or have any questions, let me know in the comments. I've been meaning to do more podcasts with Matt, but we haven't had time to sync up. But there's a lot that I need to talk about and share with you guys with him. Hope you guys enjoy that one. Keep chasing, and I'll see you in the next one.